everybody, welcome back to my 3 Thriller Thursday video where I share with you reviews about 3 thrillers that I have read and my recommendations based on my review and my ratings. The first one for this week is Sadie by Courtney Summers. I'm sure if you love the mystery thriller genre like myself, you already know about this book. But if you haven't, it's about a 19-year-old girl named Sadie Hunter who has run away from home to track down the murderer of her younger sister named Maddie. This book is set up as a podcast, which is a really cool new way of reading in my opinion. Wes McCrae gets a call from someone saying that there's a really good story that he could cover about a missing girl, where at first he's not really set on the idea because girls go missing all the time, but what made Sadie's story different is that the person who made the call believes that she's off to revenge her younger sister and track down her murderer. And so Wes McCrae jumps on the opportunity to cover this story. So I recommend the audiobook for this, or even reading it with the audiobook, which is what I did, because the audiobook, which I believe is free on either Libby or Hoopla, I'm pretty sure Libby, which is goes through your own library network, their audiobook is a full cast. So it's pretty cool how they made it sound like an actual podcast with like crickets and birds and stuff chirping in the background. So you were completely engrossed in the atmosphere that he was creating, as well as the tons of different voices from everybody that McCrae is interviewing. So that made the experience in reading it really cool. So we're alternating between the voices of Wes McCrae doing the podcast and Sadie herself, who we do learn is strictly after revenge. She's following as many clues as she can, interrogating people herself, and driving across the country to find answers to revenge her little sister and to make the monster pay for what he did. Unfortunately, a deeply unsettling mystery unfolds in the making of both the podcast and while Sadie's trying to find her own answers. So I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved the audiobook. I love the writing. However, I did not really enjoy the story. I didn't find it as much as a thriller as I did a mystery. And overall, the book is really sad, and there's just an overtone of doom that just seems to drag on. I know a lot of people love this book, and I would say that I liked it. It was a very tough read, and had it not been for the unique format that with the podcast, I don't know that I would have given it 4 stars, because I did tend to get a little bit bored when reading it without the audiobook. So I definitely recommend that if you get bored easily in thrillers. What I also did really like about this was the relationship between Sadie and Maddie that kind of unfolds when when Wes McCrae is interviewing all of the people in their lives that know about Sadie. She was very protective and loving and caring towards Maddie. So it was incredibly hard to get through and hard to read, especially Sadie's childhood, because she grew up with a very rough childhood with her mother, who is drug addicted, and the many men that she brought around, meanwhile raising her little sister pretty much by herself and taking on that role of a mother of a child that wasn't hers. So like I said, it's very deep, very sad and hard-hitting, and there are also a few trigger warnings of pedophilia, child molestation, and also abuse. So just be mindful in that when picking this up. So again, I have to say it's not as thrilling as I would have hoped it to be. Definitely more of a mystery genre than a thriller. But overall, it was a good read, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. If you can stomach those kind of things I just mentioned, definitely pick it up. It's worth the read. The next one I'm really excited to talk about. I actually read this. This is the first book I read in January of this year, and so it kind of set off my reading journey for 2020, and that is The One by John Mars. This is a sci-fi mystery thriller, which is about a DNA test that people can choose to take in order to find their perfect match or their perfect partner. And the test basically is believed to give your perfect match based on your DNA alone, who you're genetically made for. So super cool synopsis, right? And so, like many advanced discoveries, there are some major downfalls. These DNA test results have ended up in divorce, breakups, for people who are already set in a marriage, have kids, you know, the happy house, all that. And some of the matches have already passed on. Some may already be taken, as I mentioned, and some may be all the way across the world. So not only is it about finding your match, but also like getting to your match and if your match is even available to get to. Not to mention the fact that the test has completely taken the traditional ideas of love and romance and marriage and finding your partner and your one true love and flipped them completely from going from what your heart says and reading your heart to strictly what DNA says and what this test says. So we follow 5 different storylines of people who have taken the test and received their results, and we quickly learn that happily ever after isn't going to be for everyone just because they found their match. I don't want to go into too much detail with each of the storylines because I feel like that's what makes the book. But I will say that, think about the people in the world. We have many different kinds of people between, models and doctors and scientists or serial killers, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. And any one of them can take the test and be matched with their one. So super scary thought. And then at the end, there is a huge reveal that you do not see coming, and it will completely blow your mind as it did me. It was just so exciting to read. You couldn't get through it fast enough and find out what's going to happen fast enough. So 5 out of 5. I love this book so much. It's very fast paced. The chapters are very short, and you're jumping from each character, so you don't get to find out, what happened right when they're about to reveal it with so-and-so because it jumps to the 5 other characters first, which can be extremely frustrating in some cases, but it worked really well in here because it was really quick pace. And even though there are many characters in this book, they are very easily distinguishable. I never got lost, and I'm known for getting lost when there's too many people in a book. John Mars detailed them very well, and each of their stories were very, very different, so it was easy to distinguish them all. The writing is perfect, the stories are incredible, and overall it was a very fun experience, and I highly, highly recommend it. And it wasn't too scary or thrilling, but it was just enough to make you excited and want to read it through. So I highly recommend it. Check it out. And the last one is Her Every Fear by Peter Swanson. This is another 5 out of 5 star for me. As you may know, most of Peter Swanson's books are 5 out of 5. And this one is about a woman named Kate Pretty who has experienced this very traumatic situation where she was kidnapped by her ex-boyfriend. And I believe she's from London, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've actually read this. And so now she's suffering from major anxiety, panic disorders, and just having panic attacks constantly. And she lives a life where she's just waiting for something bad to happen, and she just thinks she's prone to something bad happening. So in hopes of helping her, her cousin Corbin Dell, who is from either Boston, yes, he's from Boston, he suggests that they do an apartment swap for a period of time, and Kate agrees, and she's hoping to overcome the trauma that has kind of taken over her life, and doing that by making a change in her life. Right after she moves in, she discovers that one of Corbin's neighbors, a young woman around her age, was recently murdered. I don't remember what the timeline is. It might have been like a week or a couple of days, but it was literally right before she moved in. And because it was so recent, the police have to question Kate, and though she doesn't have much information to give them, she answers what questions she can, but then that only leads her to a bunch of unanswered questions that she wants to know the answers to. So this opens a boatload of curiosity, wanting to know what the heck happened to this woman, of course. That's something you would think of, especially after the trauma that she just went through. And so as her curiosity intensifies, she meets people who knew this woman and who also know her cousin. Alan being one of them. He lives across the courtyard of the apartment complex, and then she also meets another man claiming to be the woman's older boyfriend, past boyfriend. We're introduced to a bunch of people, just like Swanson's known for doing. He sets it up so that you think that there's motive for each one of these people to have murdered this woman, and he sets up little trails that you think like, okay, that's the way to go, this is the one who did it, I know the answer. And of course you're wrong, because what kind of thriller would be that easy to figure out? So then one day Kate is investigating on her own, and she comes across some disturbing hidden objects in the apartment, Corbin's apartment. And so of course she's questioning her cousin, and could he really be the one that killed her? And then she's also questioning the character of Alan, and then the old boyfriend, and there's just so many ways it could go. And you want Kate to find the answers because you don't want her to end up stuck again in a traumatic situation. And then of course the twist or the reveal comes, and Swanson did it again. You had no idea it was coming. So I'll say it a billion times, Peter Swanson has this amazing way of making you second guess yourself, second guessing all the characters and what you think of them, and really second guessing what the hell is going on in the story. And he exposes everyone's dirty little secrets by shooting you back into the past through different characters throughout the story, and just keeps your jaw on the floor the entire time if you're someone like me. So it was such a good book, so thrilling, so exciting, and when I think of thriller, like, this is 100% what I want, and I will always put Peter Swanson's name out there because he has yet to let me down. To me, thrillers are scary and exciting, and I couldn't describe his books in any other way. So definitely check this one out if what I just described as a thriller is something that you want from a book, and enjoy it. So that's all for today, guys, my 3 thrillers. I hope you enjoyed this video, and leave any recommendations down below in the comments if there are any books similar that I might enjoy. I hope you found these reviews helpful and you like some of the books that I talked about, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Bye, everyone.